Good morning, everyone. Jim Clark here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary to share another contemplative focus with you on this fine Monday morning. And the subject that we want to look at today is darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. It seems like it's contradictory, but let's take a closer look at it and see what it's really all about. So there's two meanings to darkness in this statement. The first one is microcosmic, the individual consciousness, me, you, every individual in the planet. It's all negative polarity dominant, individuated forms of consciousness, the becoming of being. They're dark because they have limited, we come into the world and we have limited awareness. It is a darkness of illusion and ignorance. The second darkness that we're talking about is the macrocosmic, the universal consciousness as the negative polarity, the becoming of being in totality. It is the contraction of consciousness into universal manifestation. It's dark because it has limited awareness or light, just like the individual. It is the darkness of illusion and ignorance. And when either polarity reaches its extreme, it opens to the opposite. It's just the mechanics of consciousness. It's how it works in the polarized field of experience that we happen to be in. Thus, the darkness within darkness is the gateway to all understanding, the holistic understanding of who we are, light in relation to who we are not, which is darkness. And that's the creation game. We come into the world, we're born into here, we have essentially no mind at that point. We're a blank sheet, and we come in from the light into the darkness, and we're born into circumstances we have no control over. We have parents, we have no parents, we have a good birth, we have a bad birth, whatever it might be. We have these experiences, but we have nothing to relate to because it's all new to us. And all that data that you take in your first, say, 6 to 7 years of your life goes straight into your awareness and your mind. And when you reach puberty or somewhere around there, or rather around 6 or 7 years old, then the mind shifts and that becomes your subconscious. And that data, whatever you experienced and however you reacted to it, whatever stories you created about your reality in relation to those experiences, dictates how you're going to respond to events and circumstances in the world as you grow up. And this is all unconscious, and yet it's still active, it's still there, but you can't reach it because you're imbalanced so much to the negative that it's closed off to you. So when you meditate and when you live a holistic lifestyle, if you have been through this contracted experience so many times that you're finally ready to shift your individuated consciousness towards the light, and this happens just because of the way consciousness works, then you will find that a teacher shows up in your life, meditation shows up in your life, and you begin to create more balance in yourself. The dominant negative polarity, the contraction of consciousness into form, begins to yield and give way to the positive polarity, because you are creating more power in the positive polarity whenever you meditate. That's all it is. You're taking your focus away from the external world, you're going into the subjective world, and you're holding your attention there. And you're holding your intention usually with some kind of a intention yourself, a focusing technique, a mantra, or whatever, to see what you can discover about who you are and what life is. So as you go through this, or if you go through this lifestyle, as I have, and stuff, things open up to you, and you discover things that far beyond your imagination. And so it contradicts all that data that you took in the process that you went through from birth to you're 6 or 7 years old and beyond that. And so what happens here is that the breakthroughs that you have when you start to explore who you are with a balancing technique like meditation, you wake up to certain aspects of yourself. You might have a big awakening, you might have just little awakenings, but they're all huge in your life. And when you see the light that exists as you, it's in direct contrast to the darkness that you started to create as you defined yourself through your experiences and your stories in relation to those experiences. And all of that data has to be cleared out and replaced with the truthful data that your enlightening experiences bring to you, because that's the truth of who you are. This is consciousness waking up to itself. And this is just how the game works. It's kind of like guaranteed that consciousness won't get lost in its own dream, you might say. So in the relative field of experience that we're in, there's always a dance of the polarities. By default, the negative polarity is dominant because that's what created the world. That's what creates manifestation of any kind. Otherwise, they're just space. As you might say, we're kind of like fish in the water, looking for water. Because we're so close to it, we can't see it. And for us, it's like the empty space. If I'm standing where I'm sitting where I'm sitting, and between me and my camera here, there's empty space. But that empty space is the water I'm swimming in, and that you're swimming in, and we're all swimming in it. But it's not empty space. It's full of energy. It's got more energy contained in that empty space than we can imagine. So, but because we can't see it or sense it, we think it's empty. And emptiness is something that we try to avoid when we're not meditating, because it's sort of like challenges in ways that we can't understand. So we like to occupy ourselves and distract ourselves constantly with the negative polarity, doing as opposed to being. We like to action. We want action. We don't want to be quiet. Well, sometimes we do want to be quiet, but not for very long. And then we get antsy and we have to start moving again, because that negative polarity is still dominant within us. And we respond to that by getting up and doing something or talking, whatever it is, but more distraction, not the silent contemplation that brings balance to you through meditation. And this is the game that humans have been playing since day one. And it's going on today, too, in our world that we experience today, which is very fragmented and going through its process as a whole, the universal meaning of light and dark. There's more people, there's more minds, there's more thinking, there's more stories. There's much, much more of the negative that has been built up over time. And as it reaches its peak, it will start to shift towards the positive. And that's just the mechanics of consciousness. It's not something that you do, it's something that is happening moment to moment to moment. And the only thing you can really do is become wakeful and aware of it by practicing a holistic lifestyle and meditating, because that's what balances you out. And it's so simple. It's very, unless you've had a awakening experience, it just sounds like a fairy tale or something, and it's not something you can really relate to. I had friends that were meditating many, many years ago, before I had my awakening experience, and I acknowledged it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what brought them into it, but I thought, well, they seem to be happy with it, so cool. And I just wrote it off as that, but I wasn't drawn into it because there wasn't anything in me at that time that I could relate to as me. And later on in life, I had an awakening experience, a very powerful one, and then I knew. I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew that there was a lot more to me than met the eye, and a lot more to life. but it was such a blissful experience that I had a taste of the honey and I couldn't live without it. So I started to meditate. I started to change my diet. I started to exercise. I did all the things to bring more balance to my physicality and to my mind and to my emotions as I could. And I started to have more experiences that way. And I started to open up more and more to the light. And I didn't understand the processes. I didn't understand the mechanics at that time. But eventually I did discover synchronicity, and I did start to get mentored, and I started to get taught, and then I moved here and I got more and more awareness about all this, and today I am where I am because that is the most the nearest and dearest thing in my whole life was coming here and opening up to being more aware, being more blissful, being more loving. The natural state of being, the natural expression, as I said, I think it was last week, of consciousness is unconditional love, because consciousness is just loving itself. Your experience, your internal experience is so powerful at some point in your process of meditation and so forth, that the apparent reality of separation, you over there, me over here, it has very little power, because your experience of unity consciousness within yourself is too strong for that to have much effect on you, because you know it. And it's simply consciousness waking up to itself and realizing its power, its truthful power, that overwhelms the darkness that it created to create this whole journey and this whole experience. But that is the primary intention within consciousness anyway. It's a game. That's all it is. It's just a game where it's pretending to be what it is not, so that it can discover what it is. And in that, it creates an experience. It wants that experience of it. So when a person has an awakening experience, that's consciousness having the experience that it intended to create in the first place. So there you are. Your fulfillment is the fulfillment of consciousness itself. And because it is the primary intention in consciousness, there's nothing that can stop it. And your truth is your truth. It's irregardless of where you are now and what you're experiencing as an individual human being. Ultimately, you are just consciousness. You're the all and everything that simply is. The fish in the ocean that can't find the water because it's right in front of them all the time. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I like this contemplation because it kind of focuses on the mechanics of consciousness by creating two levels of darkness and just illuminating the process of being involved and being completely involved with the negative polarity, which is by virtue of the process of contraction, dominant. But as you expand your awareness, as you expand your energetic experience of who you are, and then that negative polarity loses its power, and you begin to have a more consistent, blissful experience of who you truly are. Your ego and your body and so forth is still here, otherwise you wouldn't be able to listen, I wouldn't be able to talk, and so it's still going through its polarities, and it still has some of its stories, but that's not important anymore, because it's not the real me. It's not, when everything goes, when we so-called die, what will be there is what was there in the first place, consciousness, and I will be there as consciousness, and a much more expanded state, of course. And beyond that, who cares? You know, if you value love, if you value bliss and unconditional love, then you'll find that the journey is much, much easier. So that's what I wanted to share. Until next week, when I'll come back with another contemplation to share with you. Thank you so much for watching today.